You think bees just make honey? Wrong. They determine your very survival. Sounds crazy, but stay with me for the next 60 seconds, and I'll show you a terrifying truth that will change how you see these tiny creatures forever. Did you know that if all bees disappeared tomorrow, global food production would collapse within months? Not years, not decades, months. Ow. 1 out of every 3 bites of food you eat depends directly on bee pollination. And we're not just talking about honey, we're talking about most fruits, vegetables, nuts, and even meat from animals fed on pollinated crops. In this video, you'll discover 7 shocking facts about the world of bees that 99% of us have never known. From the silent work generating billions of dollars, to the threats endangering their existence, to the revolutionary technologies transforming this ancient industry. Yes, you'll see why experts call bees the most valuable livestock on the planet, yet they receive almost none of the attention given to cattle, chickens, or other farm animals. I've spent months researching this hidden industry, speaking with commercial beekeepers, agricultural economists, and conservation experts to bring you the complete, unfiltered story. What I found will absolutely shock you and might just change how you see the world. Are you ready to enter the secret world of bees? Let's start with all the most mind-blowing fact about bees that almost nobody realizes. Did you know that despite not directly creating tangible products like cows producing milk or chickens laying eggs, these tiny bees play a vital role in pollinating countless crops, producing food that feeds the entire planet? It's estimated that the economic value bees provide through pollination reaches a massive figure, $15 billion annually in the United States alone. Globally, that figure jumps to over $500 billion. This is a silent industry that few recognize, but everyone depends on. Here's what this means in practical terms. Without bee pollination, almonds would cease to exist. They're 100% dependent on bees. California's almond industry, worth over $5 billion annually, would vanish overnight. Apple production would drop by 90%. Blueberries and cherries would decline by about 80%. Even crops like coffee would see massive yield reductions of up to 60%. Think about that for a second. What would your supermarket look like if 80% of the produce section simply disappeared? What would your breakfast look like without almonds, berries, or coffee? This isn't science fiction, it's the reality we face if bee populations continue their alarming decline. We typically think of honey as the main product of bees. But the truth might surprise you. Let's try to reverse this assumption. What if honey is just a byproduct? What if the true value lies in their ability to sustain life through pollination? Consider this fact. The global honey market is worth approximately $8 billion. Significant, certainly, but it's dwarfed by the value of bee pollination services, which, as I mentioned earlier, contributes over $500 billion to the global economy. That means pollination is over 60 times more valuable than honey production. This financial reality has created a fascinating economic paradox. Beekeepers often make more money renting their hives to farmers for pollination than they do selling honey. In California's almond orchards, beekeepers can charge to $200 or more per hive for pollination services during the crucial 2-week flowering period. With commercial operators managing thousands of hives, this becomes a multi-million-dollar business that most consumers never see or think about. One commercial beekeeper I interviewed in Washington State told me something remarkable. 20 years ago, my father made 80% of his income from honey sales. Today, I make 70% from pollination contracts and only 30% from honey. The industry has completely transformed. Imagine what would happen without bees to the plants we eat every day. They wouldn't be able to reproduce. Consequently, the animals that eat those plants would lack food. The entire food ecosystem would collapse like a domino game. The disappearance of bees means a global food crisis of unprecedented scale. Let me walk you through exactly how this would unfold, based on agricultural research and economic forecasts. In the first year after bee extinction, fruit and nut crops would see catastrophic failures. Prices for these goods would skyrocket, with basic items like apples potentially costing 5 times what they do today. Specialized products like almonds would become luxury items, similar to caviar or truffles. By year 2, the crisis would cascade through the food chain. Livestock that depend on pollinated crops like alfalfa for feed would face severe shortages. Dairy production would plummet. Meat prices would surge as farmers struggled to find alternative feed sources. By year 3, we'd see major shifts in global agriculture, with farmers abandoning bee-dependent crops entirely. The nutritional quality of the global diet would decline dramatically as fruits and vegetables become scarce commodities rather than dietary staples. The economic impacts would be staggering. Millions of jobs lost, hundreds of billions in agricultural value wiped out, and food security threats triggering potential conflicts over remaining resources. And all of this from the loss of a creature smaller than your thumbnail. For bees to fulfill their noble mission, they need an ideal living environment, abundant flowers, appropriate humidity, and clean air. Sadly, such lands are gradually disappearing due to human impact. Industrialization, urbanization, and climate change are drastically reducing suitable habitats for bees. What once were vast flowering meadows are now concrete jungles or monoculture farmlands with pesticides that harm these precious pollinators. The perfect land for beekeeping has several critical characteristics that few places on Earth still possess. First, it needs diverse flowering plants that bloom in succession throughout the growing season, not just for a few weeks. This provides continuous nectar sources that keep colonies strong. Second, it requires clean water sources free from agricultural or industrial contamination. Bees use water not just for nutrition, but also for temperature regulation in the hive, and contaminated water introduces toxins directly into the colony. Third, ideal bee habitat needs protection from harsh weather extremes, especially from the increasing frequency of droughts, floods, and unseasonable frosts that climate change is triggering worldwide. Finally, these areas need significant distance from pesticide-treated agricultural fields. Studies have shown that even sublethal pesticide exposure can impair bees' navigation abilities, reduce queen fertility, and weaken colony immune systems. One beekeeper in France showed me satellite images comparing flowering meadows in his region from 1950 and today. The difference was heartbreaking. What once was a mosaic of diverse flowering fields had transformed into uniform industrial agriculture with virtually no habitat for pollinators. We used to produce lavender honey without trying, he told me. Now we have to transport our hives hundreds of kilometers to find sufficient forage. The landscape has been emptied of flowers. A significant advancement in the beekeeping industry was the invention of the Langstroth hive. This innovation has made managing bee colonies easier and more efficient, ushering in a new era for modern beekeeping. Before Langstroth's invention in the mid-19th century, harvesting honey often meant destroying the entire hive. Now, beekeepers can easily inspect colonies, harvest honey, and maintain healthy bee populations all at once. The true genius of the Langstroth design lies in what beekeepers call bee space, the precise 3/8-inch gap that bees naturally maintain between their combs. By incorporating this specific measurement into the design, Langstroth created removable frames that bees won't attach together with propolis or wax. This simple insight revolutionized beekeeping, transforming it from a destructive harvesting method to a sustainable agricultural practice. The Langstroth hive consists of stackable boxes containing frames where bees build their combs. The lower boxes, called brood chambers, are where the queen lays eggs and the colony raises new bees. Upper boxes, called supers, are primarily for honey storage. A queen excluder, a screen with precise openings, can be placed between these sections, allowing worker bees to pass through while preventing the larger queen from accessing the honey storage area.